The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, as obnoxiously passionate about soccer as Frank Lampard after the final whistle. Gamble responsibly. See Dunleary.net.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Well, only one place to start the football show this evening. That's over in Spain. We have Dermot Corrigan from The Athletic with us. Evening, Dermot.
Hey, Joe. How's it going?
This was supposed to be your quiet time, your holiday time.
Yeah, the Spanish teams get knocked out of the Champions League, and we think, well, maybe the focus will go somewhere else for a while, but it wasn't to be.
Keep your phone on. Let's start with the contract situation. 10th of June. Messi's people feel he's entitled to ask to leave the club, and that the clause which allows him to leave for free would remain intact, even though we're well into August at this stage. I must say, at first glance, I'm on the other side of that coin. I'm not so sure Messi has a watertight case here. What leads them to believe that they do?
Well, their argument, and was speaking for pieces writing for the Athletic, I was speaking to somebody who knows a good bit about this type of stuff, and he was saying that you can argue in court that the end of the season, due to matters out of anybody's control, the 10th of June was supposed to be, the end of the season when everything had been decided. Everybody knew whether Barca had won anything or not, and that date was pushed forward into August this year because of everything that has happened. Now, whether a judge would accept that or not, it depends on the very small print of the contract, and none of us have seen, or very few people have seen or know exactly what the clause is in that. And the guy was saying to me that, a comma here or there might end up making a difference depending on how the judge views it and depending on the exact wording of contract law in Spain. So he's a guy with a lot of experience in this, and he was saying it'd be a super case to be involved in as a lawyer, because it's likely to be really closely argued and everything. So it's not an open and shut case at all. The other side of it is that maybe Messi knows that it's unlikely to go to court, and maybe this is another kind of bargaining tool or a kind of a bluff that he's calling in a way to try and push the situation forward and see what might happen next, and it might not ever end up going to court.
Yes, okay. So this could very well be the first stage towards, let's call it 80 million or let's call it 100 million. Yeah,
like when Cristiano Ronaldo left Real Madrid, it was a similar enough situation in that Ronaldo had over time grown a little bit disillusioned with how he was being treated by the very highest people at the club, in that case the Real Madrid president Florentino Perez, and all sides knew that maybe an end might need to come. Ronaldo wasn't as popular with the Real Madrid fans as Messi is. Didn't have the same type of hero reputation, maybe, despite everything that happened. But Madrid were able to say, look, behind the scenes, we'll let you go. What about 100 million? Sounds like a decent price. Tell that to your agent Jorge Mendes, and he can go and find you a club. And maybe that might have been a better way of working things out. If Messi is really determined to leave Barcelona, that might have been a better way of working things out. But the relationship between Messi and his father, Jorge, and Barca's hierarchy is so bad at the moment, is so difficult, that even coming to that type of an arrangement has just been impossible.
Mm. The interesting question, I wonder, is when he decided to leave. Does it predate Koeman? Does it predate the 8-2 defeat? Does it predate the treatment of Suarez? And we won't quite know that. But if he was of a mind that he wanted to get out of there, then initiating the contract request on the 10th of June might have been something he might have thought about. Now, maybe he couldn't have done it publicly for obvious reasons. They're still in the Champions League, season was ongoing, but he could have looked to extend that. So it does look, for all the world, like this is, if not quite a knee-jerk reaction, it is certainly a reaction to the 8-2 defeat and everything that crystallises.
Yeah, it's quite possible that there's been a lot of frustration building up on Messi's side, and a little bit at Barcelona, or quite a lot among the Barcelona board, from dealing with Messi and his father over the years. But especially talking about Leo, he has felt that he's been disrespected, you could even say, by the Barca board. He had the fallings out earlier on in this season with club president Bartomeu over the salary reductions during the COVID-19 lockdown. Then before that, he called out Abidal, or the sporting director Abidal, on Instagram when he felt that he was being blamed for the previous coach being fired. And Messi has felt for a while now that everybody blames him. Whenever anything goes wrong at Barcelona, he gets the blame for it. If it's a new signing arrives, Antoine Griezmann, for example, arrives and doesn't hit the ground running, it's Messi's fault because he doesn't pass him the ball. If Barcelona don't have enough money to go out and sign new players, it's because Messi earns so much money. If the the coffee is too hot in the machine. Messi feels that he could get the blame for it, and he says that, look, I've done my part of it. I've scored lots of goals for the team. Even now with Iniesta's gone and Xavi's gone, I've dropped back into midfield and I've taken on a big playmaking role at the club. I'm even, started to speak in public and do media interviews and that type of stuff, which I don't like to do because I feel that that's my responsibility. You guys are supposed to be the ones who are buying the players for the team. You haven't been able to renew a team, which a lot of those guys like Xavi, Iniesta, Dani Alves, Puyol have all moved on, and Barca's directors haven't been able to replace them. And the club president, they go from crisis to controversy back to shambles over the last couple of years. And he's saying, look, I'm trying to do my job, but you guys are failing in your jobs, and then you're blaming me for it. And he's, that's the type of frustration that's been building up. And maybe then the 8-2, as you say, was just the last drop on that kind of tipped the volcano to blow, and we are where we are now.
Okay, it's very interesting to get his perspective on things because in part, well, especially over the last year, I would think, his presence at the club has often been portrayed as domineering, looming over every decision, be that with his body language or, the flicker of an eyebrow, his approval, go and get Neymar, that he's dictating things and not in a very healthy way is generally how that has been portrayed. It's interesting to get his perspective, which is everybody blames me. I'm expected to do everything here and these lads are making a mess of things as well upstairs.
Yeah, like Messi is a unique character. He's grown up in circumstances that none of us can really understand, and has had a natural talent that none of us could ever dream of, really. What comes with that is that he's formed within his own kind of view of the world, which is maybe different from everybody else's, but it's what he kind of sticks to, and it makes him very difficult to deal with, whether you are a teammate who misplaces a pass or whether you are a director trying to work out who's the best midfielder to sign to fit with Messi. It can be difficult, but Messi's perspective on it is, look, I'm going to do I'm going to do my job, and you have to do yours. Okay.
What about Koeman in all this? By all accounts, he's very Dutch. He's very blunt. He sat down with Messi and said no more special treatment. It's hard to. It's like he stressed initially that he would be very keen to keep Messi, and you can understand why. I mean, it gives any manager a much better chance of doing something special. And yet, equally, if I was, if I was to find out along the way somehow that he isn't distraught at losing Messi and this presence and the baggage that might come with him, that wouldn't shock me either. What do we think Koeman's part in all this is or has been?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's as big as, I saw that report as well, which appeared to come out of Argentina about the conversation between Messi and Koeman. What I had heard even before that came out was that Messi didn't know Koeman and didn't have any really preconceived ideas about him, but that his problem was already there with the people at the top of the club, and that was no matter who they appointed as coach. Maybe if it had been Xavi, for instance, maybe it'd be different. But no matter who was going to come in as coach, and especially the way that it was presented, that Koeman was going to come in and clear out all the old guard, who was Suarez, Piqué, Busquets, Alba. You're all gone. All of the guys who been there all the way through with Messi, or most of the way through with Messi, that they were going to go, and Koeman was presented as somebody who was going to perform that job. Like having a conversation with Messi, I think a lot of coaches at Barcelona over the years, going back to Guardiola and Luis Enrique, have started off their conversations with Messi, especially maybe the idea of Luis Enrique, who's another kind of blunt character who at the start thought that he was going to lay down the law, and pretty soon realised that for the good of everybody, he was going to have to treat Messi different from everybody else. If Koeman, would have been there, would have seen all this that's happening, if he thought he was going to be able to play it tough with Messi, then he really didn't understand what he was getting himself into. And I think no matter what Koeman had said to Messi, there was likely to have been quite a short conversation. I would say Messi's mind was more than likely already made up.
I understand fans then gathered at the new camp last night?
Yeah, a couple of dozen fans outside the stadium.
Okay, sorry. I got the impression it was hundreds. A couple of dozen, that's fine. That probably happens every night. Yeah,
these are weird times in I guess in everywhere around the world, in Ireland and in Spain as well, and people are not supposed to be getting together. There were some protests, and there would be more. I think it's almost an advantage, or it is an advantage for Barcelona that they're not at the minute playing games, that the season is not about to start, and that the Camp Nou is not about to be full of 90,000 people, because even before, back in February, before the game stopped, There were chants for Bartomeu to resign. There were whistles against some of the players on the team. It wasn't a nice atmosphere at that stage, and they were still in the Champions League, and they were top of the table, or just neck and neck with Madrid at the top of the table at that stage. So there would be, while it's not so many people maybe who were at the Camp Nou yesterday, there is a feeling, quite a fiery feeling, or a tinderbox kind of feeling amongst the Barcelona fans. There's a lot of anger to go around, and frustration and disappointment after an 8-2 defeat, and a lot of people who are looking to point fingers and find people who are responsible for it and make them pay for it.
It's going to be interesting to see how this plays with the Barcelona fans over the next couple of weeks. I mean, Messi is arguably open to accusations of total self-interest, of abandoning the ship now that things have become so difficult, versus some kind of, justified on his part exasperation at a hierarchy which has systematically destroyed the club. And, he retreats heartbroken, and, he's not a charity and it's not his fault. And I suspect, generally speaking, the Barcelona fans will direct their ire at the hierarchy as opposed to Messi, but who knows?
Yeah, there's a lot of ire and a lot of anger going around, and a lot of people to point to that. Bartomeu is in a very difficult situation. He's not very popular. He's getting he's getting a lot of fingers pointed at him, and a lot of people saying he's the worst Barcelona president ever, and how could he allow this to happen? And he hasn't done a good job. That's fair to say. He's hanging on to the job. He knows that were he to leave now, that he could be in a lot of trouble. There's a big hole in the club accounts. There's ongoing investigations and inquiries and all types of stuff into things that have gone on at the club over the last couple of years. And he's just not very popular, but he feels he has to hang on for it. There will be some Barcelona fans who will look at Messi and go like, we have given you everything. And maybe more of the Barcelona fans who are socios of the club, who are people who go to the club every week, as opposed to the people who are reacting on social media, or fans around the world who aren't as close to Barcelona, the institution, what it means for somebody to come out for Messi that they love so much, or they put so much hope and been through so much with, for him to come out and, as you say, go like, okay, my reaction to the most historic defeat ever is to say I'm out of here and I'm going to head to wherever it is and earn a load of money there instead. There will be a certain amount of the people who will go against that, and there, Bartomeu won a presidential election before. He has people who do support him. There's a social mass of maybe older, more conservative Barcelona fans who are the guys who have the vote, who choose the club president and make the policy at the club. And some of them at least would come down on, or would instinctively, support the institution over any individual, even Messi.
I mean, the nature of the ending will linger, and it damages the fairy tale. And it was pretty much a pitch-perfect fairy tale from minute one up until very, very recently. The notion that it ends in an empty stadium, 8-2 humiliation, and then Messi forcing his move through potentially in the courts for nothing and walking off when arguably they need him more than ever. I'm not saying he won't be able to go back to the Nou Camp in 10 years' time and be paraded around the ground and worshipped. I suspect ultimately the passage of time will mean that will happen. But geez, it's an incredible turn for the book. 4 or 5 years ago, it was not meant to end this way.
Sure, and my feeling would be that